Hello and thanks for staying on LN 24/7. This is Politics Now. My name is Morno Balagbobo. There's quite a lot in terms of the range of topics we will be treating today, so you want to sit back, relax, would I say grab a coffee now, but call your family together and let's just have some great conversation today. Today we'll be starting with Nigeria under Tinubu's watch. There's quite a lot of developments under the Tinubu government administration. So first we want to look at, well, I call it good news now, but there's definitely work to be done. Our first talking point would focus on the anti-corruption fight. Nigeria moves up to 140 position in 2024 CPI. We'll break down the details shortly. And of course, to monetary policy, where CBN is stopping free withdrawals for customers using other banks' ATMs. There's been a lot of outcry over charges from banks, and the CBN is very clear on getting 100 naira for every 20,000 naira withdrawal that you perform or try to get from other banks that are not your bank. Now, moving to the next talking point, which is telecom tariff hike implementation. The reps are urging the NCC to hold on. We'll see if that will pull through. Well, our guest today on the show is Dr. Felix Ije. He's an economics policy expert and, of course, a former banker and academic researcher. Also joining the show today for the first time is Emmanuel Okonji, an ICT journalist. He is a journalist with over 20 years experience in ICT reporting and also the ICT editor of This Day newspaper and also the chairman of the Nigeria Information Technology Reporters Association, NITRA. And away from Tinubu's government, of course, we'll focus a little bit on breaking down what is going on in Rivers politics, looking back at the Supreme Court's dismissal of Fubara's budget appeal. That's our first talking point today on the show. And secondly, why Governor Fubara withdrew appeal and resolving the political impasse that seems to never want to end in Rivers State. Our guest joins us from Port Harcourt. He is a legal practitioner, a constitutional lawyer, so he's got all the right information to give us to help us make sense of what is going on. We'll take a quick break. I'll be right back to break all of it down for you to stay with us. All right, Nigeria recorded a slight improvement in Transparency International's TI 2024 Corruption Perceptions Index, ranking 140 out of 180 countries. This marks a 5-place improvement from its position at 145 in 2023. The country's score also increased marginally from 2,500 in 2023 to 2,600 in 2024. Quite some good news that this administration, of course, will make boast of. But the 2024 Corruption Perceptions Index released by TI on Tuesday ranks countries based on perceived levels of public sector corruption using data from various reputable sources, including the World Bank and the World Economic Forum. Talking about the World Bank, they released days ago a press statement saying that Nigeria is now the largest economy in Africa. That's after about 4 years of South African dominance. So that's also good news for this administration. Now, according to the report, a score of 100 indicates a corruption-free country, while 0 signifies a highly corrupt system. Nigeria's historical performance on the index shows an average score of 21.48 points since 1996, with the highest score of 28 recorded in 2016. And Nigeria's score reached an all-time high of 28 points in 2016 and also a record low of 6.90 points in 1996, according to the Transparency International. Now, while Nigeria has made progress, slight progress, I must say, it continues to lag behind several African nations in the fight against corruption, like Seychelles remaining the highest ranked African country, scoring 72, followed by Cape Verde 62, Namibia at 59, Mauritius 50, 56, and Rwanda 57, and Botswana at 57. These countries have implemented strong anti-corruption frameworks. So what's the giant of Africa doing to stem the tides of corruption that continues to eat deep into the very, very scarce resources of Nigeria? Now, the 2024 Corruption Perception Index highlights the widespread nature of corruption across the globe. While 32 countries have significantly improved their rankings since 2012, the majority of 148 countries have either stagnated or worsened in corruption levels. The global average score remains at 43, with other two-thirds of countries scoring below 50, indicating that corruption remains a persistent challenge globally. All right, so we'll go straight to the conversation. Dr. Felix joins us right now virtually. Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Felix.
Thank you.
So now to the present ranking of Nigeria amongst most corrupt countries in the world, from 145 to 140. Many people will call that progress, but is that good enough for you?
Okay, the current ranking and improved status of Nigeria in governance. Because when we are talking of corruption, we talk of institutional quality. So it's like there is a belief in current reforms. There is belief in current reforms. There are seeing some tractions coming up as a result of current reforms going on in the economy. Then the projections we are having to having a better economy based on our budget, based on medium-term framework that we have outlined to take place in the next 3, 4, 5 years. I think there is more trust in doing business in Nigeria. There is more improvement in doing business in Nigeria. There is belief that our institutions have been well strengthened, that we will only be having tractions as per improvement over. Is a very good, is a win. Other economies will not be seeing us as an economy that will keep dwindling, especially on the of doing business, on transparency, on institutional quality. It's really a very, very good thing. We need to work more. We can do better. We need to work more so that we come better up instead of remaining at a lower base. Other economies will be looking down on the Nigerian economy. I think we can still do further. It's a good thing that we're improving, and we can actually improve further.
Now, when we talk about anti-corruption fight in Nigeria, the past few months has seen a lot of perceived notions, and they call it selective fight against corruption. How does this government improve on this latest ranking?
Administration and management is actually very difficult. For any institution, for any country, things like that will definitely come up. When you talk of selective fight against corruption, nobody can rule that out in Nigeria is happening. But what you're actually seeing is that the impulse of it is that the populace are complaining that those ones fighting corruption are themselves corrupt. That they are looking at those ones they can fight before they bring them up to the public for shaming in the public for their corrupt tendencies. Talking of selective fights or selective application of the law for those ones that are corrupt over time is something that is going to take time before we'll be able to do even attack on corruption. For us to do that, we have to look at those ones that actually apply the law, the judiciary and our civil police too. Until we're able to cleanse them totally, until we're able to totally detach politics from true governance to achieve economic improvement, we will not say we will have a total fight against corruption that will not be selective. So it's something that is going to be done gradually. Once every ministry, every parastatal identify that there is need for a change, then gradually change will start from either from bottom up or from top bottom. From top bottom is very difficult, but it's doable. Bottom up is also necessary. So fighting from both ends will help us to control corruption. But my advice is that we should be looking at detaching or removing politics, taking politics away from tidying up the economy for growth and development.
All right, delighted to have our second guest join us, Mr. Emmanuel. Thank you so much for being with us on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's my pleasure being here.
As someone who covers the ICT, what do you make of the recent ranking on the global list of most corrupt countries? I mean, ICT is something that is deployed, they call it scamming. I don't want to use the word Yahoo, but that's the word most Nigerians are familiar with.
Corruption has been so endemic in our system, and then the government needs to fight it out in order to have better ranking in the global world. Now, the current ranking is not impressive because Nigeria has been very low in terms of the corruption index. We have been very, very low, and we need to come up in that index. But how do we come up from that index? Nigeria has to do what we call, or what we call selective, clamp down on corrupt leaders. We have so many corrupt leaders in this country. If they want to start actually do a cleansing of this country, they should start from the top, from top down to the bottom. That's how they can get it rightly, not selective judgment. Maybe get somebody who stole a little thing or stole a little amount of money. The police go around the person and then they put it on telly and they begin to say all manners of things about the person. But once the real thieves, those that steal billions with their pen, those that actually corrupt, the leaders are not actually, the authorities are not actually looking after them. So we need government to sit tight, and actually clamp down on the corrupt leaders in this country. The issue of selective judgment should be stopped. Anybody who is guilty should be addressed as such. That's the only way we can rise in our corruption ranking, in our ranking index,
All right, Emmanuel, thank you so much for your thoughts. I want us to move on to our next talking point, which, of course, has to do with monetary policy. The Central Bank of Nigeria says charges will now apply anytime customers use the automated teller machines, ATMs of banks other than theirs. This was contained on the 10th of February and addressed to all banks and financial institutions. Citing the Director of Financial Policy and Regulation, John Onoja, now they gave a breakdown of how this will operate. In this directive, they're directing banks and financial institutions to apply the following charges from the 1st of March, while customers withdrawing at the ATMs of their banks and financial institutions won't be charged. Customers withdrawing from the ATM of the banks will pay 100 naira per every 20,000 naira. And the CBN said for off-site ATMs, automated teller machines, not on banks' premises like those at shopping malls, eateries, and other public places, a surcharge of not more than 500 naira per 20,000 naira will apply, in addition to the statutory 100 naira fee for withdrawals by customers of other banks. Now, the Apex Bank is attributing these review charges to rising costs and the need to improve the efficiency of ATM services in the country. So let's come back to you, Dr. Felix. What's your thoughts regarding these recent CBN charges? You were a former banker actually before you went back into the world of academics. So you're in the best position to actually make us understand the rationale behind these charges.
Okay, I think before I will comment deep about that, let me explain what is meant by why there is a different charges for different points. In ATM transactions, that is cash dispense transactions, we have where ATM will be installed in the branch or in the bank. Is being managed by those ones in the bank. Is though they have the link through which all of them go is outside. So when a bank introduces an ATM in their branch, it is called their own transactions. Then when you use the bank debit card on that ATM, it's as if you have walked into the banking hall to do transaction for that particular day. Eventually, charges will be internal. That means you may not have charge on it. For instance, if you have First Bank card being used on First Bank ATM in their branch, then charges may not come up. Then there could be cases where a bank takes their ATM outside. It's not within their bank, it's riding from another end. So that one is not, that one is another card coming into an ATM that is being managed by a different, just like having 2 or 3 sets together, riding on one, riding another one before it hits the bank. So there are a lot of cost implications to running ATM outside the bank that is being controlled by either a customer of that bank or an environment that is different from the bank that is not on us transaction. Having such debit of up to 100 naira per transaction, I don't think it's too much considering the cost of running such ATM. I'm speaking like this because I've experienced it, where we have an ATM somewhere, we have to go there to feed cash into it. Then we have to pay charges for using the environment, using the machine, using the switch in between. The fund that is going, the amount that is being charged on such ATM is not going to the bank. It's going to be shared between all the service providers within that link. Then you also notice that they said for any debit card, Nigerian debit card that is used elsewhere, especially if it's external outside the country, whatever they charge there, whatever is their cost, that is what will be applied. That is beyond the regulation of Nigeria. It depends on the charges over there. So not on us transaction is an expensive transaction. That is why it's even advisable that if you definitely have your debit card and you have your bank around, or your bank, the ATM around, if you use it, it becomes cheaper. But you consider what is going to cost you to move around, maybe looking for where your bank ATM is. I think running at that 100 naira is not much. What we should be talking of is some debit. That is the ease of reversal of failed transaction. The ease of reversal of failed transaction should be what we concentrate on. And again, we should also work on reducing cash transactions. What will you be going to the bank to collect cash every time? What are you doing on ATM, going to ATM to collect cash every time? If we are able to work on doing transfer transactions, not using debit card, that is the digital banking debit card.
All right, let me go to Mr. Emmanuel now. Is this a ploy to discourage physical cash transactions, as this might discourage individuals from using ATMs with cards due to, just go ahead and answer the question, sir.
Oh yeah, thank you so much. I quite agree with some of his points you raised. The issue of physical cash and cashless economy is very key. Now in Nigeria, CBN has tried severally, to make Nigeria a cashless-based economy. But even at that, Nigerians still need cash to do certain transactions. There are little cash we still need to do certain transactions. But the bulk of it all should be the issue of transfer. We should be able to kind of imbibe that culture of doing transactions seamlessly, doing transactions through electronic transfers from our mobile phones via to other banks. That makes it easy for us, and that's what the FTB is trying to achieve a cashless economy. But that this increase we are talking about now, for me, I'm not surprised about it. I look at it from a different dimension. Now, the dimension I'm looking at it from is that there is pressure everywhere in this country. The economy situation is very harsh. things are difficult, rising cost is increasing costs. We can feel the cost of increase in the petroleum product, cost of fuel, cost of these people need to survive, they need to grow with the rising costs as well. So that is the reason why you see that most people are increasing costs, adding costs to the value in order to maintain these services. Now, for transaction, it's okay. But my worry is, if you take your card, for example, according to CBN's new, if you take your cards to maybe a shopping mall or an eatery where your bank does not exist, maybe we have ATM cards there and you want to do a transaction there. Now you can do that transaction for 100 naira costs per transaction, but the bank is now also saying that for every transaction you pay additional 500 naira, making it 600 naira per transaction. So if you transact like twice, you are paying like 1,200 for maybe about 40,000 naira transaction you want to do. So for me, I think it's on the high side. It's actually on the high side. But they are doing this from this card-based economy to a cashless-based economy, whereby we can transact freely from a mobile phone. We can download the bank app, and we do our transaction freely. Apart from the bank app, we have the 737 for GTB. We have the USSD for other banks. They can use to do their transaction seamlessly. So for me, I think seamless transaction is key. But that issue of 500 naira per transaction for ATMs outside of your banking hall, in areas like mall and eateries, should be discouraged. That price is actually on the high side, because Nigerians, when they go out, there are some areas you go, they will tell you they don't even need transaction. They need physical cash. It happens. There are places I go, I want to buy something, they tell me, okay, I don't need transaction. I need the physical cash. People do that, but this is what CBN try to discourage. So we need to imbibe that culture of seamless transactions so that we can do transactions seamlessly. But the issue now is the network should be ready and robust. Because if everybody now begins to do transaction and there's fault in the network, the transaction fails. That's why we normally see of these failed transactions all the time. These people of failed transactions have been so rampant, and the network failures have been so rampant. So the telcos have to sit up, the banks have to sit up, how to ensure that their network is strong enough to carry this transaction that all Nigerians will be embarking on. That's my view about it.
Now, that's quite interesting, because when you look at these charges and this drive to want to push Nigerians towards a cashless society, that means we'll be doing a lot of internet transactions. And that will lead us to our next conversation, where the House of Representatives on Tuesday directed the Nigerian Communications Commission to suspend the recent 50% hike in telecommunication tariffs. The lawmakers cited the economic hardship being experienced by Nigerians owing largely to the removal of fuel subsidies. And the decision of the House was sequel to the adoption of a motion of urgent public importance, which was sponsored by PDP's Oboku Ofoji during Tuesday's plenary. Let's see what these lawmakers had to say, and if the government will actually allow NCC to pull off this plan, which has already been implemented by some telcos in Nigeria. We'll be right back.
There is also worried, Mr. Speaker, that far-reaching effect of the price hike will deepen financial struggle for the average Nigerian, threatening the economic vision of leveraging technology to drive economic revival, exacerbate poverty, and widen existing inequality, hitting lower-income family the hardest. Affordable connectivity is a must for progress in critical sectors like digital banking, education, healthcare, agriculture, and e-governance. Informal sector workers who depend on affordable mobile data to access gig work opportunities may find it harder to stay connected.
All right. At the plenary yesterday, the House urged the Minister of Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy and the Nigerian Communications Commissions to suspend the impending hike. But it's already started. So how are they going to walk all of that back? Well, let's go to Dr. Felix. It appears to me that federal government is pushing for cashless policy, obviously, but not just directly coming out to say it. How do you make sense of having to balance all of these charges, knowing fully well that if you are doing, digital transactions, the cost of buying data, it's going up almost by 50%. What are your thoughts?
I think this is one of the issues of having to get things adjusted, especially when they are conflicting policies. Here we are looking at Telco, that telecommunication companies. This has remained now the pivot on which every other economic activities revolve in the economy. Individuals use the telcos, the banking sector, health sector, the ministries, the parastatals, education sector, everybody use the telco. But the continuous increase in the cost of accessing them is mainly because of the need to boost or enhance the telecommunication infrastructure in the economy. On the average, if you check it, the average is very high already in Nigeria. Increasing it is like asking us to tighten our belt the more, bringing much pressure on everybody, because the increase, we should not be looking at it as only within the banking sector, including the education sector, the health, the impact is going to have on us. If we say they should suspend or reduce tariff on it, eventually, if they complain at last that they are unable to get necessary infrastructure, it will become a major challenge. In some economies, what they do is that they see how to provide necessary infrastructure. Then companies will ride on the government infrastructure. Government will even be able to control the prices. The reason why in our economy we're unable to control prices of all these operators is that our social infrastructure on ground on which they ride, we have little or nothing. It's just so small. They themselves provide everything for themselves. Let's take, for instance, the MTN. You see MTN marks everywhere. They don't even use PACN. They don't use our electricity generation, national grid. What they do is that they come up with their own generators everywhere. So financing all those things is like, that is what they are complaining about, that is becoming more difficult. Even if we actually have to give them opportunities so that they have to fix their price to be able to meet up with the increasing cost of providing these services, it should also be moderated. If government is talking of moderating it, government should also be talking of how they can impact, how they can help. They have a lot of different fiber optics that they lay on the ground to make sure they get this enough bandwidth. Government can also buy bandwidth at least to reduce pressure on individual, so that where people, there are some major institutions, government institutions, they should be able to provide network activities for them, so that it will reduce pressure on them too. So increase in telecommunications tariff is not just what we are going to look at like that with a kid blow. It's going to impact on the economy. It's going to increase our inflation rate a little again. And it's going to affect the productivity in our economy. But we should be very careful how it's going to be handled, because if government decide to stifle all attempts for them to increase a little their costs, that they increase a little their service offering, the cost of service offering, eventually some of them may be performing below average, and it's going to affect all sectors of the economy. The regulating body should sit down with them and see the best price that will be okay for them and also okay for the masses.
Okay, we've got to let you go, Dr. Felix. Thank you so much for being with us on the show.
Thank you, Sam.
All right, Mr. Emmanuel, glad to know that you're still with us. Now, this is kind of your forte because you cover ICT. You're most definitely vast to give us your thoughts on this. How can the government make things bearable regarding this hike? Are you in support of the House of Rep members? Because professionals like yourself, even journalists, we definitely know for a fact that a hike of some sort is kind of justifiable. But the question now is 50%. Is that not too much?
For the 50% hike in telecom tariff, it has been an issue that has been lingering for quite some time now. The telcos, the telecommunication operators, they actually asked for 100% tariff increase in order to meet up with their operating costs. But they got 50% tariff rise, which Nigerians have been agitating, complaining that why should NCC approve 50% rise in telecom tariff. Now, Dr. Felix said something here. So telecom operators, they have operating costs, and this operating cost is increasing by the day. And then for them to survive and sustain this operating cost, they need to increase their tariff. Now, the issue is not about increasing tariff, because one, NLC has said they were going on strike just for them to see that tariff is reduced back to maybe 10% or 15%. Other telecom groups have also said they were going on protest. But at the end, they saw reasons. And then they came back to the drawing board and said, okay, fine. The issue of tariff increase is not actually the problem. The problem is the quality of service that telecom operators will be offering. Now, if telecom operators are giving this 50% tariff, the question we should be asking is, how soon should we begin to experience good quality of service, better quality of service in the telecom sector? Because for some time now, I tell you, services have been a little bit bad. We have been having a lot of drop calls. We have been having connectivity failures. We have been having failed transactions. All these things as a result of network issues. And at times, you have some areas you go, you have networks, some areas you don't have good networks. Networks are very epileptic, and then even to make calls, it becomes very difficult to end up the call successfully. So what we've been asking is, with this 50% tariff increase, will it amount to better quality of service? And that's the question I've asked the operators. They said yes. I was to give them time based on implementing that. We're going to start implementing it this month, February. And I said that from this February to 3 months' time, that Nigeria will begin to see improvement in quality of service. And that is what we should be looking at, not only the cost. Because actually, these operators have been complaining that they are running out of loss, they are running loss in their business, and they are private investors. They were not licensed to run free will business. They are licensed to make profit as well. So if they are doing business and are not making profit, they may run out of business. And they run out of business, Nigerians will not be able to communicate. If, for example, telecommunications goes down completely now in Nigeria today, we can't communicate with one another. It becomes an issue. They will not go back to the old stone age where people cannot even communicate. You have to visit somebody, travel far distance before you need to talk to somebody. But with today's age, where you can use telephone to talk to somebody in remote areas, in far distant areas, then we should begin to see the benefit of telecommunications.
Thank you for being with us, Emmanuel. He's our ICT reporter with This Day newspaper. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure.
All right, you're still watching Politics Now. We'll take a quick breather. When we come back, we will help to break down a little controversy, which has been cleared, by the way. But there's just a whole lot of deeper conversations to be had regarding the ongoing crisis of politics in Rivers State. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
What makes the political system what it is today? What are the recurring issues?
Order.
The tussle for power.
An extremely problematic area.
The tension. The instability of the system. Join Ellen 24/7 as we take you inside the local and international political arena in the world of politics.
Apologize for saying that I was corrupt.
I'm not here to call out his lies. Everybody knows he's a liar.
Watch Politics Now on LN 24/7.
Don't miss Politics Now on LN 24/7.
Glad to know you're still with us in politics now. Time to go to Rivers State. Let's start with our first talking point, which has to do with the dismissal of Fubara's budget appeal and the press statement released by the state government as to why the appeal was withdrawn and also resolving political impasse in the state. Our guest, Barrister Austin Ugu, is standing by. But first, let's do a little breakdown of what is going on. Do recall the Apex Court dismissed Fubara's appeal and of course, but withheld rulings on 4 other Rivers political cases. The Supreme Court on Monday reserved judgments in 4 separate appeals surrounding the Rivers State political logjam, which has continued to pit the minister of the FCT, Nyesom Wike, against the incumbent governor, Similaye Fubara, and this is something that we've been covering always on the show. But the court dismissed the appeal by Fubara against the judgment ordering him to represent the state's 2024 appropriation bill. Of course, we are in 2025, so how does that make sense? And of course, a 5-member panel of justices of the Apex Court, led by Justice Uwani Musa, dismissed the appeal shortly after it was withdrawn by Fubara's lawyers, led by Mr. Yusuf Ali. Both the Federal Court, High Court rather, and the Court of Appeal had in separate judgments faulted Fubara's presentation of the 2024 appropriation before a 5-member assembly led by Edison Ehif, and Fubara pre-dedicated his decision to present to the Ehi-led assembly on the grounds that the Emewule-led faction, having defected from the PDP to the APC, ceases to be lawful members of the state assembly. Now, that's the major political conundrum there. Who gives the right to declare Emewule's assembly of no effect? And that's some of the cases that are still waiting judgments from the Supreme Court. Now, but the 2 lower courts held earlier that he could not present the budget before a 5-member House of Assembly, especially when he did not present any evidence that the faction of the Emewule 27 lawmakers defected from the PDP to the APC. But there were visuals to that effect. But displeased with the judgments of the 2 lower courts, Fubara last year approached the Supreme Court for an order setting aside the concurrent judgments, ordering him to represent the budget to the Emewule-led faction. And of course, the Rivers State government has defended the governor Similaye's decision to withdraw his appeal at the Supreme Court. So initially this was interpreted to mean that, okay, so Fubara's Uche Jumbo's led assembly is no longer of no effect and cannot continue legislative activities. But the state government is saying that move was appropriate and necessary. The Commissioner for Information and Communications, Warisinebo Joseph Johnson, explained in Port Harcourt that the appeal which sought to challenge the lower court rulings regarding the budget's presentation before the Martin Emewule-led House of Assembly had become redundant. According to Johnson, the 2024 budget cycle ended on the 31st of December, rendering the appeal an academic exercise with no practical significance. Barrister Ugu joins us now. Thank you so much for your time on the show.
You're welcome.
So let's start with what you made of the Supreme Court's dismissal of Fubara's case, because amongst you legal luminaries, there seems to be division in what it means and in what it does not mean.
I think, again, my thoughts centered around the legal language. In a sense, it's a bit legal language is a bit stylized in the sense that it's some words contain a lot of meanings. So when we first heard dismiss, everyone thought it was what we call on the merits, as if the Supreme Court heard all the facts of the case and then decided one way or the other. So most of the commentary didn't state that there was a withdrawal and then the court dismissed it since issues have been joined, right? So that leads to a lot of issues. But I think the critical thing is we'll have to go to really understand the effects, which is what I'm I understand you mean, the effect of that Supreme Court decision, we have to go back to the courts, the inception of this case. So we then understand what happened in the first court, what happened in the Court of Appeal, and what hasn't. What is the result of this dismissal by the Supreme Court to the affairs of the State House of Assembly. Only with that understanding will we be able to really say who it's who and what did the Supreme Court decide. But for clarity, the Supreme Court really didn't, in the real sense, take a decision. The Supreme Court dismissed the appeal because the appellant had withdrawn his appeal. I think that's the clear thing. So that means, therefore, that the decision of the Court of Appeal is what stands, as it were, right now. Yes. I hope I didn't add confusion to it again.
Now, I want to take you to the thoughts shared by Femi Falana, saying that the four lawmakers loyal to Fubara can carry out legislative activities. This is someone who is a senior advocate of Nigeria. Do you disagree with him?
I already smiled, so you should know my response to that. All right, but let's okay, again, you don't mind, let me take, I like being a bit logical. I like being logical in my presentation. So let's do this, okay? So he says that the four members that they are the legislative arm, right? So therefore they can take decisions, or they can act legislatively. So let's do an analysis. First off, where did this issue begin from? One, this issue began from when, let me begin it from when Martins and the other guys, the 20, sometimes it's confusing, 23 or 24, but we know that they're about 24 or 25, when they defected from the PDP to the APC. As at the time of their defection, Martins was the speaker, right? So Martins was the speaker. So when Martins defected to the APC, was there still a House of Assembly comprising the defected members and the other members? Of course they were, right? What the Constitution provides is that, and that's the argument they have, what the Constitution provides is that when a member defects, only the speaker, on presentation of evidence by another member to the speaker or by the speaker, can declare his seat vacant. So I will ask you, Mena, this is for you so that you can come to a conclusion too. As at the time Martins defected and the other guys defected, who was the speaker? Martins was the speaker. Who therefore declared his seat vacant? Martins or another person? What happened was that the the remaining House of Assembly members that did not defect appointed a speaker, and the speaker declared the seats of the defecting members vacant. You see where the controversy is? That's where the controversy is. Do those guys have the right to declare that seat vacant? Was there another speaker, a valid speaker of the House of Assembly of Rivers State as at the time that was declared vacant? If we go by that issue, according to Falana, there's a federal High Court matter on that issue now, right? No problem. But let's follow what is presently on ground. If we follow the decision of the Federal High Court, the Court of Appeal, and the dismissal by the Supreme Court, it does suggest very strongly that that Jumbo's faction does not have the legislative power.
Barrister Austin, so are you saying their defection to APC does not invalidate their membership at all?
So what I'm saying is that their defection has a problem, right? In the sense that who has the power to pronounce that they have defected and their seat has become vacant. And I said the Constitution provides that only the Speaker can do that. Okay, the Speaker of the House that could therefore declare and that their seats are vacant. And that their seats are vacant. Who was the Speaker that could do that at that time? I hope you understand my argument. That's the thin line we have to define. Who was the Speaker that declared their seat vacant? Was there a Speaker at that time? All right. Or if you read the Constitution clearly, you discover that the Constitution does not provide that the moment the person declares the defect, his seat becomes vacant. It's not automatic. The person defects according to the constitutional provision. He defects from one party to another. The Speaker then declares his seat vacant. So they defected. Who declared their seat vacant? The same Speaker that defected, or another Speaker that was appointed? If another Speaker was appointed, does that Speaker have the right? Do the people that appointed that Speaker have the right to appoint?
Now, I want to ask you, the members who did not defect, can they choose their Speaker to lead the House of Assembly? Because that is a possibility that you're not looking at.
That's where the wahala is. And I use wahala deliberately because problem does not communicate it enough. The wahala is, okay, my question is, when they defect, at what time does their seats become vacant? At the time they defect, or when it is pronounced by the Speaker that they have defected? The fact of their defection does not seem to be in contention. So let's say they defected, right? So when did their seat become vacant? Immediately or at the pronouncement of a Speaker? So my argument is, the Speaker was amongst those that defected, isn't he? So who pronounced, therefore, that he was no longer a member of the House of Assembly? For me, that's where this whole issue cuts. That's where this whole issue is. Until that core issue is resolved, every other issue will not be. We'll just be fighting over, there will just be a fight over whether or not the 4 members can and the 4 members cannot. But if you want my opinion, I can tell you this. My reading of the Constitution suggests strongly that those 4 members do not have the constitutional right to do what they are doing.
Barrister Austin, I wouldn't say you are confusing us a little bit, but who is to blame for all this conundrum? Would you say the legal process, so to speak, is responsible for all of this drama?
You see this thing you mentioned them. I was having a conversation in the office and we were brainstorming on some things. So I'll say this openly. We need to restructure our dispute resolution system in a sense that we have clear hierarchies, right? Very clear hierarchy where certain decisions should be, where certain disputes of this nature should be, right, resolved. I know sometimes we can say that, but they're just, in my view, there's too much fluidity around it. There's just too much fluidity around where certain decisions can be resolved. And then the second thing is that we also need to create a synergy where if I'm in a matter in the Federal High Court, right, and there's another matter of that same nature, which was wrongly commenced in the State High Court, the Federal High Court should be aware, right? So I think that from some of the modeling of some of this stuff from the State High Court, are you aware that there was a State High Court decision after a River State High Court decision after the defection, when the other 4 members, there were 5 then, came together, that there was a High Court decision, this River State High Court decision, that confirmed that the person appointed Speaker was a valid Speaker. I mean, just doesn't make sense. So the legal part has a major role to play in this. I'll admit it here. we need to restructure that. But the biggest concern for me is the impact on the economy. The impact on the economy, because we seem to be ignoring that. For example, I was going through some of the bills that the current four-man legislative arm, in quote, is considering, or are considering. And I'm wondering, if I'm an investor and there's all these disputes, do you think I would consider those are the laws of Rivers State? So what are the laws of Rivers State relevant right now to my bringing in my investment into Rivers State? Right. And just imagine that we still have about 2 years to go over this whole Boha. So it's going to have major impact, and it's already having major impact. So a direct answer to your question, yes. This whole case and how it has gone shows that we need to restructure that aspect of our dispute resolution. We must. We can't keep having this. We must.
Now, if we're going to solve this problem in terms of the legal appeals filed by either Wike's side or Fubara, how does the present constitution aid the Supreme Court in solving this problem?
Okay, the problem it's solvable. Unfortunately, the courts only decide what is brought before them, right, Mena? That's the biggest weakness of the courts. What do I mean? If you and I have a dispute, I hope we do not. But if you and I have a dispute, right? Let's say we have a contract. So let me put you on the protagonist side. We had a contract. The contract is for 400 million. I defected in that contract. If you go to court and you present another case, what do I mean another case? If you present the case that my defection cost you 20, my defaulting in our agreement cost you 20 million, right? Directly, and 500 million indirectly. First off, the court will have to decide, was there a contract between us, right? But if you do not present, if the contract was invalid or initially, or had issues initially, we are still going to have another dispute. We are going to have, so the court cannot decide on what was not presented before it. That illustration does not hit it, but the court cannot present on what was not decided, what was not presented before it. Part of the challenge I've seen in this matter is the real issues seem not to have been legislated and seem not to have been presented before the court to pronounce on. And in my view, the real issue was that issue I presented to you, right? At what stage do the defection of those guys make their seat valid? Is it at the pronouncement of the speaker? If it is at the pronouncement of the speaker, was there a valid speaker at the time their seats were declared vacant? That's the question. That has not been presented before any of the courts. That's where this whole thing turned in my analysis.
Now, do you think that the defected lawmakers should be sanctioned under the law?
Wow, that's an interesting one. Politics should be removed from every legal proceedings. Yeah. Well, the basis on which the court system works is that the justices and the judges, they are political. So in theory, they are not supposed to be political. One. But if I also understand your question to mean, should political issues, maybe I should ask that. Do you mean that should political issues be legislated upon? Should political issues be decided by the courts? Is that what you mean?
Okay, Austin, let me rephrase. What I'm saying is that should the judiciary system be empowered to sanction defecting lawmakers to another party?
Yeah, no. Okay, initially, the constitution didn't have provisions for what happened when a member defected. So if you recall, in the previous years, there was a spate of defection. People were defecting from one party to the other. So the constitution was amended, and it was included there that there were several reasons on which a member seat will be declared vacant. One of it was that if the persons defect from one political party to another, and the party is defecting from do not have a crisis, right? His defection entitles his seat to be declared vacant. Okay, so that means if for example, if I'm a member of a political party and I defect from that party to your own political party, and there are no crises in my party, my defection means that I have lost my seat because I had contested on the platform of the party I defected from. Right? So that's what the Constitution provides. Outside that, there's no other way to sanction them. The only way to sanction them is if you defect without fulfilling what the law says, you lose your seat. There's no other way to sanction them. This is just free. I could say this for free. In my view, what I think would have happened, the appropriate things that I think the four remaining members of the House of Assembly should have done was, I use words because it's past now, was at the time the other guys defected, they would have gone to court, right? They would have gone to court for a declaration about the status of their defection. That's what I would have recommended. If they had gone to court to ask the courts to pronounce on the results of the consequences of their defection at that stage, will not have this multiplicity of cases on one issue.
Thank you so much for your thoughts, Barrister Austin. Unfortunately, we're out of time and we've got to go. Thank you for being with us today on the show.
All right, I'm grateful, man. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Esteemed folks at home, thank you so much for this hour of conversations right here on LN 24/7. We've got to go. We're out of time. Once again, my name is Morno Balagbogbo. Many thanks for watching and may God bless Nigeria. And I keep asking myself the question, when will we just be able to vote people into power and not have the court being used as a tool to manipulate and confuse people about what their vote really means to them when they come out under the sun to actually vote for people to represent them in power? That's some food for thought there. And that's where we call it a day today on the show. Thanks for watching.